I hear all sorts of mixed reviews about what the grant of rights really means and how breakable or unbreakable it is, but let's assume that it's unbreakable. These schools are locked in until 2036. Yes, the ACC is not going away tomorrow, if that in fact is the case. Now, other people that are pretty qualified say, hey, contracts are made to be broken and anybody can buy themselves out of a contract. Shoot, if you're going to go make 60 million more per season somewhere else, and we're looking at 14 years, 13 years from now, and you figure, hey, we could cut a deal and get out of this for 100 million because we're going to be able to make it up in a year and a half. So let's go ahead and do that. But anyway, even if it's unbreakable, the ACC, yeah, it's not necessarily going to go away tomorrow, but at the end, the conclusion of all this, and I know that there are certain steps to it that become easier and easier to break out of it leading into 2036, that it's going to be a much weakened conference and nobody's going to want to stick around that has better options at that point.
Not only that, it makes it less attractive to high school players or now that we got the portal players. I mean, nobody wants to come. If you're basically relegated to group of five status, that's going to hurt your credibility, so to speak, big time. People want to play on the big stage. And if your team or your school has fallen that far behind, it's going to have severe consequences over the long term.
I don't know that Commissioner Wolford was watching my channel. This was several years ago, but I suggested going after UCF. Now, that wouldn't have solved everything, and it seemed quite ridiculous to a number of people that were like, why would we go get a group of five program for the ACC? Well, that might have been a good place to go to further strengthen the Florida ties. And it's obviously one of the largest universities in the nation. And it's a pretty solid entertainment spot for NIL now.
Yeah. If we're sitting here today, maybe back then, today, as we sit here, I don't know how much UCF moves the needle, how much, you got to basically be worth a school, if you're adding a school, they got to be worth about 30 million or so to break even. If you want to think about it in simplistic terms, 30 million a year to break even. I mean, is UCF worth that in television rights? I have no idea. I wouldn't think so. But if you're the ACC, to me, you kind of hitched your wagon to Notre Dame. And to me, if you can't get them to join at some point in the future, and I don't think you're going to be able to, I think you need a school like that, somebody that's going to really move the needle if you are going to make any kind of substantial jump and kind of cut that gap some, because even that's not going to catch you up. It'll decrease that gap, but it's not going to catch you up.
Yeah, I was definitely not suggesting that the ACC try to get UCF now. They are locked in on the Big 12 and certainly have some kind of consideration there that's similar to, a buyout like the grant of rights. So they're pretty well locked in there. And absolutely, it's just a difficult situation for the ACC. And there is talk out there that the ACC may be able to go back to the bargaining table and rework the contract, but they're not going to be able to rework it enough. If they rework it by $50 million per season, and that's a stretch, that's $3 to $4 million per team. So that's not going to move the needle and make them competitive.
I don't know how true this is. There's always rumors flying around everywhere, but I've had multiple people try to tell me they've heard that the ACC needs 8 schools to vote in favor of terminating the grant of rights, and they could get out of it, and that they have 7 votes in favor already. They only need 1 more. And I just don't know that I buy all that, because I don't think there are 8 teams that the Big Ten and the SEC would instantly scoop up. And why would you vote to disband a conference if you weren't already locked in somewhere else? And I just don't know that I buy all that stuff, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next few years. That's for sure.